This Monday at 8, Channel 4 Dispatches investigates a potentially alarming risk coming our way in a trade deal with America in Trump's plans for the NHS. First tonight, though, is Jon Snow at Westminster and Matt Fry in the studio for the Channel 4 News.
If they genuinely want more time to study this excellent deal, they can have it, but they have to agree to a general election on December the 12th.
Boris Johnson launches his third attempt to have a general election. Will Labour, will Parliament let him? Good evening from the Houses of Parliament. On Monday, Boris Johnson will again try to get two-thirds of MPs to back a general election, this time on December the 12th, in the depths of winter. Twice before, he's been blocked by Jeremy Corbyn and the opposition parties. Tonight, the question is whether enough of them will have changed their minds, even if the European Union tomorrow allow a 3-month delay. So, election or not, we're left asking, can anything break the Brexit deadlock?
And the horror and tragedy of 39 people who froze to death in the back of a refrigerated lorry. We know they were Chinese. We know the driver of the lorry, who's in custody on suspicion of murder, is from Northern Ireland. But there is so much we still don't know. Were they migrants, refugees, or were they trafficked? Did they take this route into the UK because it was the best way to avoid checks? And if there had been more checks, would they still be alive? We'll be joined by two young brothers who travelled to the UK in a refrigerated lorry and tell us about their terrifying journey. And we speak to Cyntoia Brown, jailed for life at 16 in Tennessee for murdering the man she says bought her for sex. Now released on clemency, she tells us about her ordeal, her life behind bars, and her new life outside.
So Boris Johnson has twice asked for a general election before, and twice he hasn't got one. Now, will it be third time lucky? Today, the Prime Minister declared he wants a snap general election on December the 12th. And as ever, he's put the onus on Parliament, telling MPs they will get, quotes, all the time they want to debate his Brexit deal, as long as they agree to the election. Indications so far from the opposition parties suggest it might not go Mr. Johnson's way. Our first report tonight, here's our political correspondent, Liz Bates.
Prime Minister, are we heading for a general election?
Boris Johnson left Downing Street today ready to present MPs with a new Brexit offer. Agree to a December general election in return for more time to pass a Brexit deal in the Commons.
The way to get Brexit done is, I think, to be reasonable with Parliament and say if they genuinely want more time to study this excellent deal, they can have it, but they have to agree to a general election on December the 12th.
The details were set out in a letter to Jeremy Corbyn. He told the Labour leader he expects EU leaders to offer a Brexit extension until the 31st of January. If that happens, the Commons will vote next week on whether to have a general election on the 12th of December. This will give MPs until November 6th to pass a Brexit deal in the Commons. The Prime Minister wrote, "This means we could get Brexit done before the election on the 12th of December, if MPs choose to do so." This is the moment the Leader of the House delivered the news to MPs.
Members will have an opportunity to debate and approve a motion relating to an early parliamentary general election.
A straightforward offer, but a less than straightforward response from Labour, who had some demands of their own.
Her Majesty's opposition Labour Party will back an election once no deal is ruled out. And wait for it if the extension allows.
Yes. Jeremy Corbyn's response was to stand up and leave the chamber.
We know why they won't have an election. It's because they're afraid of the voters. So alienated are the voters so feeling disenfranchised, are they, with their socialist friends, that the socialists are running away from an election?
We will not be pushed today by this Prime Minister, because he might be hoping the electorate will fall for his contracts, but the SNP will certainly will not.
What I make of it is that we've got someone who is trying to distract desperately from his own failure to keep his promise of getting Brexit done, do or die, by the 31st of October.
The government will need the support of 2/3 of MPs to get the general election they want. But given today's reaction, the outlook seems gloomy. With hopes of a Brexit breakthrough fading, the Prime Minister returned to Downing Street tonight. He's opened the door to a way forward, but can he persuade others to follow him?
Now, our political editor, Gary Gibbon, is with me. Gary, where's Labour tonight?
Very good question. I know where virtually every single Labour MP is because I spent the last couple of hours trying to stop them and talk to them. I didn't find a single one who wanted the Labour Party to sign up to this idea of an early election, a sort of twofer deal. You get to have a time-limited look at the bill and then an early election. Couldn't find a single Labour MP or Labour figure who wanted to sign up to this, but that's probably because the few people who retained an open mind on it and were still chewing over it were in the leader's office. And I think we're probably about to hear from the leader, I suspect, and I suspect he's going to say he's not going to go for the deal, but it has been a very sweaty 2 hours for some Labour MPs who are absolutely shocked that Jeremy Corbyn or anyone around him should think of going near this. But at the end of the day, they're not going to do that, and that leaves a giant question mark over what it is that the government's going to do next.
Well, why is the government even doing this?
Well, the government does have splits in its own ranks, around the cabinet table and elsewhere. People who have looked at the progress of this bill at second reading have thought, look, we've really got to give this a go. We might just be able to hold together a majority and actually get the withdrawal agreement into law and Brexit. But it would be beyond the 31st of October date, even if it were to happen. And so this is, to an element, a bit of displacement activity or chaff by Number 10, who don't want too much focus on that sort of split-screen moment on 31st of October when you see Boris Johnson saying this will happen, die in a ditch, do or die, and then the dates sort of drift by. So they're very concerned about that. I think it also plays into their longer-term election strategy for whenever the election happens, because it builds up anti-parliament feeling. But what does it mean about the bill itself? If they lose on Monday, and you have to say now it looks like pretty much a racing certainty, what do they do next? At the moment, they're kind of saying that bill, the withdrawal agreement bill, you can't have it, you can't look at it, it's my homework. They're not going to share it with Parliament and let Parliament have a go at it. Parliament might pass it, it might amend it beyond recognition, but they're not going to let them touch it. So the great question, I think, tonight and over the weekend is that, but also what kind of extension will the EU offer and when will they offer it? The great expectation has been that they're going to say the 31st of January and you can stay in the EU until then. That's the date that was in the letter that the Prime Minister was forced to send. But at the moment, I think there's a strange sort of dance going on. They're waiting to see what happens here before they give anything definitive. And you have to say there aren't very definitive signals coming out of this building, as ever.
Gary Gibbon. Well, so will Mr Johnson get opposition parties to support him this time? Earlier I spoke to Ian Blackford, the Scottish National Party's leader here in the House of Commons. I asked him how he greeted the news that Boris Johnson wants to call an election for the 12th of December.
It's mad. I mean, we want to make sure we've got the extension and we want an election as quickly as possible. The idea that we're asking people to go to the polls days before Christmas, and the Prime Minister wants to have his cake and eat it. He wants to have the withdrawal agreement bill go through Parliament, then have the election. He's got this the wrong way around. What we should be doing is letting the people have their say, and then Parliament reacts to the vote of the people in the general election. This is barking mad. It is something that will not find support anywhere in the House of Commons.
Your constituency is around Inverness. What's it like December the 12th?
Well, it's pretty dark, I'll tell you that. I mean, you're talking about you're getting close to the shortest day. It doesn't get light till 9 in the morning. It's getting dark, 3:30, 4 o'clock. Many communities have no street lights. People are not going to thank you for asking them to come out and vote in a general election when we're in the middle of winter.
So let's get this straight. What does the SNP think is the right way forward at this moment?
The right way forward is to make sure there is no threat of a no-deal Brexit. The European Council are going to give an announcement tomorrow on an extension. We hope that's till the 31st of January. When we've secured that position of safety, we should be having an election as quickly as possible. The opposition parties have got to show leadership. We need to do this. We should be bringing forward a motion of no confidence where we can defeat this government and put this issue back to the people. That's the right thing to do. The withdrawal agreement bill is a bad deal. It's worse than Theresa May's deal. It would be bad for jobs in Scotland. The last thing we should be doing is debating that. That bill is going nowhere. What we need to have is a general election from the position of safety, from having had the extension to the Article 50 process.
Times are immensely splintered at the moment, splintered within parties, splintered within Parliament, splintered within the country. How could you, or can you envisage having pacts with other parties to bring this through to what you...
Yes, I can, and I would appeal to Jeremy, to Joe, to all the others. Let's come together. This is a dangerous Prime Minister. It's a Prime Minister that's shown that he's been willing to act in an unlawful way. He's playing with Parliament. He doesn't sign letters to the European Council. He's now trying to come up with this convoluted strategy of bringing forward a bill and then having an election right in the pre-Christmas period. We need to stop him.
Problem is he knows he's going to win.
I'm not sure that's the case. I think all of us have got to accept our responsibilities. There is no such thing as a good Brexit, and I know that the people of Scotland will support the SNP in the message that we don't want Scotland being dragged out of Europe, and we want to make sure that in our case that we've got the right to determine our own future. Opposition parties elsewhere have got to do their job in defeating this Prime Minister. We'll do our job in Scotland.
Ian Blackford, thank you very much for talking to us. Well, now, I've also been speaking with the Labour MP, Stella Creasy. I asked her how she thought her Labour colleagues would vote next week on whether to hold another general election.
We're not going to support this motion on Monday because it's another piece of political theatre. It's the Prime Minister trying to do everything and anything he can to avoid actually having to look at the Brexit deal he's proposing and people being able to scrutinise it.
So is it absolute that it cannot take place on the 12th of December, this election?
Well, I can't see how it does if the motion doesn't go through on Monday, and I can't see why we'd support it because it doesn't take no deal off the table. And I think what everyone's really concerned about is until you actually have legislation to replace the fact that we, in theory, will leave the European Union on Thursday, the 31st of October, whether that be because you have a second referendum, which is what I'd like, because I think the public need to have a say on this, or whether you have a Brexit deal, then having a general election just makes that more likely, and voting for a general election makes that more likely. So the same logic that made us say, no, hang on, this isn't a good idea before, is still in place.
There was a rumour that the leadership of the Labour Party might be tempted to try an election on the 12th of December.
I think, you know, if you go in there as I do every single day now and you see what this government is and how chaotic it is and how erratic it is, and you see all the issues they're ignoring. I've got big challenges with poverty, with knife crime, with schools in my local community. I'd much rather be working on that. But fundamentally, if we don't deal with Brexit, we can't deal with any of those things either. That's the problem.
Are you sure Jeremy Corbyn isn't entertaining the possibility of an election on the 12th of December?
Oh, I think you have to look at the proposals. I'm sure he is. But we were very clear tonight. There's a really good reason you don't vote for it because it doesn't take no deal off the table.
And are you prepared to fight to keep 5.5 months, are you prepared to fight to keep January the 31st as the end of this?
We have to see what Europe comes back with, but I think they probably are going to look at some date in January next year. That's, after all, what they were required to ask for through the Benn Act. I think the challenge for us as parliamentarians is that we do need to deal with the fact that our legislation says on Thursday we crash out of the European Union without a deal. So we are going to need to make progress on that. We also need to work out how we're going to solve Brexit, because the truth is Parliament is divided, the country is divided. We're so far away from where we were in 2016. That's why I just think now we need to know what the public think.
Stella Creasy, Labour MP. Now with me is the Conservative MP Charles Walker, who is Vice Chair of the influential Tory 1922 Committee of Backbench Tory MPs. Sir Charles, I mean, where are we tonight? Do you really feel that you can win this?
Well, I'm hoping we're getting nearer a general election, but that remains to be seen what happens on Monday, whether the Labour Party...
But I mean, you must have heard enough tonight to know that Labour MPs are all saying they won't be doing it. You've got the Liberal Democrats, you've got Scottish Nationalists. It doesn't look very probable.
Well, let's hope Jeremy Corbyn has some authority in his party. I mean, here is a man who said he wants a general election. He's been saying that almost every week since June 2017. Now he's been asked twice, he's been offered a general election twice, and he's refused it. Perhaps at the third time of asking, he will accept it. After all, his front bench were out today and yesterday evening said if a general election was offered, they would accept it on this occasion.
But what is the biggest priority? To get the biggest decision the United Kingdom has made possibly since the Second World War right, or to have a general election?
Well, I think we have a general election and then we get that decision right. I mean, I think this Parliament has failed miserably over the past 2.5 years to make decisions. I think that's the problem. I'm not confident that if this bill goes before the House again, it won't just see that as an opportunity to delay and then ask for another extension. They'll say, well, it's Christmas now, we're not going to get this done by the 31st of January, let's push it out now till April. I don't trust the makeup of the House of Commons to come to a decision on this anytime soon. It hasn't done in the past 2+ years, and I don't think it will do in the next 3 months.
Well, wiser heads than mine are saying tonight there's little prospect of a general election. You're never going to get the numbers because of the Parliament Act.
Oh, I'm an optimist. Often the outcome's the same whether you're an optimist or a pessimist, but an optimist has more fun getting there. So over the weekend I'm going to hope that Labour does the right thing. I'm going to remain optimistic and actually gives this country the general election that it craves. And I do believe now there is an appetite out there for a general election, so we can have some.
But the word from our political editor is that Mr Corbyn has indeed decided he does not want an election.
Well, I don't know. I've not spoken to Mr Corbyn, but he does decide different things depending on what hour of the day it is. So this morning he wanted a general election, I'm being told this afternoon. This evening he doesn't. Perhaps tomorrow morning he'll decide he does and then change his mind 3 or 4 more times before we get to Monday evening. This is not a man who is decisive in his decision-making.
You're a very experienced MP. I mean, are you really happy with the state of affairs? This is an absolute shambles.
It is a shambles.
And the leadership is also pretty questionable.
No, at least Boris Johnson is trying to get something done. I mean, I'm a very angry member of Parliament. I'm a very cross
lots
member
of words,
of Parliament.
but I know how much is actually
He's
being
actually
done.
well, he got a deal before the House of Commons, didn't he? People said he couldn't renegotiate the deal, and he did. We need a general election. We need a majority government to take this country forward, to settle Brexit and start governing again. I mean, the Labour Party, it just seems to just want to get in the way. Jeremy Corbyn says he wants a deal. He's voted against an EU deal now at 5 times of asking. Why on earth does anybody think at the 6th time of asking he's going to support a deal? He simply isn't. The only deal he said he'd go for is one that he negotiated with the EU, but then he'd come back and campaign against it. So he doesn't even want his own deal, for crying out loud.
Well, you never know. There might be some extraordinary moment in history when the Labour Party suddenly win the election, and then you really would be in a mess.
Well, I don't think really the British public are going to put Jeremy Corbyn in number 10. I advise them, if they're thinking about it, to read the resignation letter of Dame Louise Ellman. I think that might just focus their thinking.
I mean, really, we had Ian Blackford on. I mean, his constituency would be virtually in darkness on the 12th of December. It gets dark at 3 in the afternoon. It's dark until 9:30 in the morning. I mean,
it's called winter.
Yes.
And we do have by-elections in the winter.
We have a lot of old people who want to vote, and possibly most of your best supporters.
And we have postal voting. Really, to argue against a general election because it's going to be winter doesn't carry a great deal of weight, to be perfectly
However, you
honest.
know better than I do that the central argument is that it frustrates finding the right deal for Brexit.
Well, as I've said, that for Jeremy Corbyn there isn't a right deal, because even if he said he negotiated a deal, he'd then campaign against his own deal.
Sir Charles Walker,
Strange
thank you very much for joining us. Strange times indeed. Well, more from here in Westminster later, but for now, let's go back to Matt in the studio.
Thanks, John. Now, to the other big story of the day. They were 8 women and 31 men. They were all Chinese. This much we know. How and why they ended up dying inside a refrigerated trailer brought across the Channel is far less clear. As Belgian police said today, we have a lot of questions, not a lot of answers. Essex police have got an extra 24 hours to question the truck driver who's from Northern Ireland on suspicion of murder. Well, the post-mortem and long process of identifying the 39 people who died is now going on. Here's our senior Home Affairs correspondent, Simon Israel.
Today it emerged that everyone inside this trailer was a Chinese national, and the scene inside has been carefully preserved until the truck was driven into a hangar at nearby Tilbury Docks. Once out of sight, forensic analysis has taken over. All 39 people were in the trailer when it was driven onto the ferry at Zeebrugge on Tuesday, and then collected by another cab and taken to the Purfleet Industrial Estate early yesterday morning, when the bodies were discovered. This is where the difficult task has begun of identifying the 39 adults. Police now say 8 of them are women and 31 are men. It's very likely to be a lengthy process, especially if, as is common in many of these people smuggling operations, none were carrying identification papers. Then comes the equally difficult challenge of tracing their families. It took many months to identify the 58 people who died in similar circumstances at Dover 19 years ago. Then, Bobby Chan, an immigration advisor in London, liaised between the Chinese communities and the authorities. Today he finds himself reaching out yet again to those communities to spread the message.
I'm saddened that, they have done the same thing again. They should have known that, never go into a lorry, refrigerated lorry like this one and, die a horrible death.
But this is another generation now, isn't it?
It will be another generation. You'll be talking about normally probably in their 30s and 40s, if not younger. There are a lot of villagers who are still being encouraged to come. The snakehead will paint a very lovely place in this country with good wages and all sorts of things.
The snakehead Mr. Chan refers to is a Chinese term for a gang which specialises in human smuggling. Back in 2000, a mysterious woman known as Sister Ping was found to be the mastermind behind the operation which led to the deaths of the Dover 58. Today, there will be a different snakehead behind the Essex tragedy.
The snakehead will be the local people in China to encourage people to go. As like currently, every few years you hear rumors that there will be an amnesty in this country. They urge people to come to get yourself within the amnesty, and it happened every few years. In the past was child.
Whether that's true or not,
it's definitely not true. Britain never have an amnesty. There have been rumors that when William get married, you have an amnesty. When a new government come into being, there's an amnesty. When Harry get married, there is an amnesty. And that's happened in the past.
And people in China believe that?
Well, how do you say it? There's no reason for them not to believe it.
This may well be history repeating itself. In the case of the Dover 58, the mobile phone number of the contact they were supposed to meet was found on 27 of the bodies, written on scraps of paper or pieces of clothing. Who may have been destined to meet and greet the victims of this week's catastrophe will be one more line of inquiry in this murder investigation.
Simon Iswell reporting. Well, the village in County Armagh where the driver of the truck came from is said to be in complete shock. 3 properties in Northern Ireland have been raided, and the National Crime Agency is now investigating whether any organised crime groups were also involved. Our reporter Claire Fallon is just across the border in County Monaghan. Claire.
More than 40 hours after the discovery of the bodies of 39 people in the back of a lorry in Essex, and we've been told this evening that police have not yet requested the tracking data from an onboard GPS device. Now, we know that that data exists. We know that it was recording where the trailer had been in the hours and days before the bodies were discovered, but we've been told that police have not yet taken it to analyse it, even though it will, you would think, give them some fairly crucial information that may well help with their investigation. What we do know is that the trailer arrived into Essex during the early hours of yesterday morning, just after midnight. We know that it came from Zeebrugge, and we know that it's owned by a company that's based in Dublin called Global Trailer Rentals Limited. That company has told us that it was out on rent when all of this happened, that it was rented out just over a week ago. Now, we've been talking to solicitors acting for that company throughout the day, and they're saying to us that on 4 occasions in the last 2 days they've contacted police to offer them the tracking data, but that so far it hasn't been taken away to be analysed. Now, we have attempted to contact Essex Police. We've been asking them for information about this, for an explanation of some sort about why this data has not yet been taken to be analysed. They have not come back to us with a response yet, but, you know, there will be a lot of information that they have that they're not making public, and there will be a lot of evidence that they have to get through with this huge investigation. We have also been given a name for the person who we believe hired that trailer. We're not naming them at this point in time. What I can say is they are involved with the haulage industry, not too far from where we are this evening. We attempted to speak to them today. We went to an address for them, but were very quickly told that we should leave, and there didn't appear to be any police activity at that address. But in areas where there has been police activity, as you said, there's a huge amount of alarm, really, at all of this. And earlier on I spoke to Paul Berry. He's a unionist councillor in the area where the other man, Mo Robinson, lives. That's the man who's been arrested by police, a separate man from the person who we believe hired the trailer. And here's what Paul Berry had to say to me earlier today.
We need to support the family at this time, the mother and father, who are clearly distraught. We need to give them their full support because they never expected such news to land on their door. But we must also allow the Essex Police and now the PSNI to continue their inquiries and hope that the real perpetrators, whoever they may be, whether local or abroad, are brought to justice, and that these individuals who were involved in this are brought before the courts and are locked up for many years to come.
Well, although this is clearly a very fast-moving investigation, a huge investigation for Essex Police, there are some questions for them this evening about their investigation, but they are saying that they are focusing on what happened, and they are asking anyone with any information to get in touch with them so as they can establish exactly what happened.
Claire, thanks very much indeed. Well, today another group of suspected migrants were detained at Zeebrugge port as they tried to climb a fence into a truck company compound. Officials there say it's highly unlikely that the 39 people who died were loaded into the trailer inside the port zone, insisting that seals and license plates are examined and checked by cameras before any refrigerated trailer can be loaded onto a ferry. From Zeebrugge, here's Paul O'Brien.
The machinery of ports and borders in Zeebrugge on Tuesday became the backdrop for a catastrophic loss of life, sealed up and hidden from view like in a coffin. So this is the Britannia dock in the giant port of Zeebrugge. Today we've been trying to get information from the Belgian authorities, trying to piece together what happened here on Tuesday. This morning we spoke to the Belgian prosecutor. He confirmed that at about 10 to 3 on Tuesday, the container with the 39 Chinese nationals arrived here at the dock. Then that afternoon sailed for Purfleet. That was all the detail the prosecutor was in a position to give today. The rest was unknown.
We don't know how much time he stayed on the Belgian territory. We don't know if it stops or not. We don't know if the people get in the container in Belgium or not. So we have a lot of questions.
Also today, the mayor of this area and the president of the Port Authority here spoke to journalists, and he said that he believed that the people in that container had passed away before they arrived here at Zeebrugge.
When you are with 39 people in that box, within some hours there is a mess of oxygen in it, and I think it will be your death, especially when temperature is then going on from -5 until -25 degrees. That's the possibility of such trucks.
The chairman of the Port Authority is convinced that the 39 people entered the truck some distance from the port and that heat scanning technology didn't pick them up because they had already passed away. From here you can see how the logistics would have worked on Tuesday afternoon. Containers from all over Europe brought to the port. The cab unit decouples from the container, then is loaded onto a ferry by a small tractor unit. The big logistics picture: 4,000 trucks leave Zeebrugge a day. On Tuesday, one of them was a hearse. About 60% of the freight that leaves Zeebrugge here is destined for the UK and Ireland. But of course, the big question now is, where did that container originate, the container that arrived here on Tuesday afternoon? And exactly when did the 39 people inside, when did they get into that container? We don't know the answers to that questions, but if there are clues to be had, they are perhaps in that case back in 2000 that Simon Israel was talking about earlier in the programme. And what was uniquely challenging about that particular case was the fact that the Chinese criminal networks had subcontracted out a section of the human trafficking journey to European criminal networks. And it's that interface, that fault line, is the one that will represent a unique challenge for police across Europe investigating this tragic case.
Park O'Brien there, thank you very much indeed. So what is it like attempting a journey across countries, across continents, stuck inside a lorry with dozens of others in the most perilous of states? Well, in 2016, two Afghan brothers, 7-year-old Ahmed and his older brother Jawad, were smuggled to the UK in a refrigerated lorry when the oxygen inside began to run out. They both join me now. Welcome to the programme. Let me start with you, Jawad. When you watch this terrible, tragic story of those 39 people who died, what goes through your mind?
I was with my friend. He drove me to home, and I listened radio. When I hear this, I was physically inside the car, and mentally I was inside the lorry, you know. I was feeling I'm inside the lorry with these 39 people.
You're back in your experience?
Yeah, back to experience, and I was thinking, oh my God, I come back to there. How did these people go out? And then I said, maybe I'm dying, you know. I'm not alive.
How many people were stuck inside your lorry?
15 people.
15 people. And how long were you together in that lorry?
14 hours, 14, 15 hours.
And it was refrigerated?
Refrigerated lorry, yeah.
So how cold was it? I don't think people can imagine what that's like.
From beginning was very cold. We put a sleeping bag. But in the end, after 2-3 hours, become hard because the oxygen here is stopped and not working. Then we become harder, you know. Then we take out our jacket and blank it out.
So the problem for you wasn't the cold, it was the lack of oxygen?
Yeah, first from beginning we feel cold, but in the end we get warm because the oxygen ran away. We couldn't breathe very well.
Were you scared, Ahmed?
Yes, very much.
And did the driver of the lorry explain to you exactly what was happening?
No.
He didn't?
No. He just used bad language, and he used to stop and then come and then swear at us. Because
you were shouting, or because you weren't behaving as you wanted you to behave?
Because we were shouting and trying to get out of the lorry.
And when you were stuck inside that lorry, it must have been so terrifying.
Yeah.
To wonder how long it would take.
Yeah.
Tell me, did he explain to you, I'm just curious about this, did he explain it's now going to be cold, you might, have difficulty breathing? Was there any sort of explanation, or you just herded into that truck?
No, they just put us the lorry, and they said they're going to take you like 5 hours, 6 hours, but this take us 14 hours. And the lorry driver is not stopped. We called the driver, please stop, but he wasn't.
He ignored you?
No, he just ignored, and sometimes he stopped, he's just shouting and said, I will drop you, I will drop you.
And so how did you finally get heard? You had to make a phone call to someone in Calais, right?
Yeah, my brother, he's called a volunteer, and the lady was named Liz Killick. She was in New York, and about the conference about the women and children that time, and she called the England police to.
And I mean, you were only 7 years old at the time, Ahmed. Yeah. When you were going through this very terrifying experience, did you think to yourself, I want to live through this, this is worth it, it's worth it? Or did you think, why am I here?
Yeah, and so, can you explain it again, please?
Did you, when at the time, did you understand why you were doing this, why you were stuck in the lorry? You did?
Yeah, because I was running away from danger and trying to get to his safety.
You were running away from the danger of war in Afghanistan?
Yeah.
And did you ever, Jawad, think this isn't worth it? This isn't worth the risk that we're taking?
I was thinking, but not that much, you know. I was thinking maybe it's dangerous journey, but not that much dangerous. If someone put you in lorry and lock the door behind you.
And this is at the end of a really long journey, right?
Yes.
So the whole journey took, what, 7 months?
6, 7 months, yeah.
6, 7 months?
Yeah, we walk in and by train, by sheep, you know.
And was the most dangerous part of the journey the last 14 hours in the truck?
This is the first, and we had the before as well, you know. The police shoot us, you know, in Turkey.
Mm-hmm.
He wants to kill us because we want to cross from Iran to Turkey. But it's not just, this is like very simple journey we had.
What would you say to people, you know, in Afghanistan or indeed anywhere else in the world, in China, who are thinking of doing the same journey? What would you say to them today?
If their life is not too much danger, they should stay in their home country.
They should stay in their country.
Yeah, but if their life is danger, their choice to. They want to stay or they want to leave.
So this is a calculation: the risk of staying at home under fire and the risk of the journey.
How risk is too much. If they stay in the country, is risk high, or if they travel.
Do you like living in Britain, Ahmed?
Yeah, I'm happy living here and going to school.
What do you like about it?
I like about going to school and learning things, yeah.
You support a football team?
No.
Okay, all right.
I play cricket.
You play cricket?
Yeah.
Okay, good. All right. Ahmed and Jawad, thank you very much for coming on the program. Thanks very much. Now, a year and a half after up to 87 million Facebook profiles were harvested in the Cambridge Analytica data scandal, Mark Zuckerberg is still facing questions over his role in the affair. The social media boss was grilled about what he knew and when he knew it by US politicians on Capitol Hill. He also faced swinging criticism over his company's attitude to policing political advertising. Our Washington correspondent, Siobhan Kennedy, reports.
Sometimes even the most tech-savvy can't safeguard their privacy. Mark Zuckerberg had come to talk about a new digital currency, but it was Facebook's insistence it won't fact-check political ads that had lawmakers incensed.
Joe Biden promised Ukraine $1 billion if they fired the prosecutor investigating his son's company.
Ads like this by President Trump's re-election campaign, offered up with no evidence, should be removed by Facebook because they're not true, say the Democrats. But Mr. Zuckerberg says it's not up to him to censor political speech and has allowed the ad to run.
They lost the election. Now they want to steal this one. Don't let them.
So Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez asked him if she could run an ad claiming the Republicans had endorsed the Democrats' climate change proposals.
I mean, if you're not fact-checking political advertisements, I'm just trying to understand the bounds here. What's fair game?
I don't know the answer to that off the top of my head.
You don't know if I'll be able to do that.
I think probably.
Do you see a potential problem here with a complete lack of fact-checking on political advertisements?
Well, Congresswoman, I think lying is bad, and I think if you were to run an ad that had a lie, that would be bad.
So you won't take down lies, or you will take down lies? I think it's just a pretty simple yes or no.
Okay. I believe that people should be able to see for themselves what politicians that they may or may not vote for
so
are
you
saying,
won't take
judge
them
their
down.
Character for them.
All this matters because President Trump has already spent millions of dollars on digital advertising for 2020, and Facebook allows him to target not just the Trump faithful, but potential new supporters too. Last week, Democratic presidential candidate Elizabeth Warren decided to fight fire with fire, or Facebook with Facebook. She bought this ad claiming Mark Zuckerberg had endorsed Donald Trump. You're probably shocked, and you might be thinking, how could this be possibly true? Well, it's not. Sorry.
What you consistently see on Facebook is these stories that are not fact-checked, that are by garbage organizations, making the top 10 stories that go viral every single day. So the truth is, this isn't free speech. It's an algorithm that prioritizes outrage and false accusations.
AOC, as she's known, wasn't in Congress when the Facebook boss faced a grilling over the Cambridge Analytica data scandal. So the Congresswoman took a moment to clear up some facts.
What year and month did you personally first become aware of Cambridge Analytica?
I'm not sure of the exact time, but it was probably around the time when it became public.
When was the issue discussed with your board member, Peter Thiel?
Congresswoman, I don't know that often.
You don't know. This was the largest data scandal with respect to your company that had catastrophic impacts on the 2016 election. You don't know?
Well, Congresswoman, I'm sure we discussed it after we were aware of what happened.
Okay.
In that election, Facebook allowed Russia to run rampage across its platform with fake political ads. Foreign campaigns have already been discovered and removed this time round, Mr. Zuckerberg says. But even he admits Facebook can't guarantee to stamp out foreign interference in 2020.
Siobhan Kennedy reporting from Capitol Hill. Now, she's been behind bars since she was 16, jailed for life for murdering a man that she claimed was buying her for sex. This August, Cyntoia Brown was freed from prison on clemency and has written a memoir about her extraordinary life, a life of teenage homelessness, of rape and sex slavery, of managing to get not one but 2 university degrees behind bars and launching a petition for clemency which went viral. Aisha Tull has been speaking to her from her home in Tennessee.
This is the moment fresh-faced teenager Cyntoia went from being treated as a child to an adult.
Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
That makes you, what, 15?
16.
16, yeah.
She had a happy childhood, but started rebelling as a teen, becoming a homeless runaway, and spent years in and out of the juvenile justice system.
The only thing we know is that he took you to Sonic.
At this filmed hearing, she was told she could face life in prison, not being able to leave until her 60s.
It was difficult. I had spent the previous 2 years really fearing those words and really trying everything to avoid the conviction, the sentence to life. And so when it was handed down, it was devastating.
Her sentencing was an abrupt end to her troubled teenage years.
I started having relationships with men when I was 12, and these men were adult men. Men in their 20s, men in their 30s, and just very toxic relationships, not even really relationships. I was being taken advantage of. However, I was being told that I was just promiscuous, I was just fast, and that wasn't the case. I was actually being exploited.
One of the men who sold her for sex was nicknamed Cutthroat, and on one night when he sent her out, she met Johnny Allen.
A 43-year-old man had picked me up, and we went back to his house, and I started feeling uncomfortable. He started showing me weapons. I just wanted to leave, and I didn't feel that I could. I felt trapped. I had come to expect violence from men, and things just really escalated to a point where I thought he was going to actually do something to me, and I reacted and I shot him.
Within 24 hours, she was charged with homicide. In America, there are nearly 12,000 people serving a life sentence for a crime they committed before they were 18. 80% of young prisoners serving these sentences are people of colour, 50% are African American. That rises to 80 in the states of Alabama, Louisiana, Mississippi and Virginia.
There's nothing to say to justify it. You can't justify it.
But Cyntoia's case got attention from a filmmaker and major celebrities who called on the Tennessee governor to grant her clemency. The family of Johnny Allen dispute her version of events, and they say in a statement the judicial system has failed again for victims everywhere. While in prison, Cyntoia says she changed her life by earning 2 degrees. Since she left prison in August, she's been enjoying her life as a newlywed. Having met her husband while incarcerated, they wrote letters to each other. And she also spends her time working with women with cases like hers who have not been seen as sex trafficking victims.
I know I was convicted in 2004, and they were still calling me a teenage prostitute. There is no such thing as a teenage prostitute, period. There's no such thing as a minor who consents to her own exploitation.
Cyntoia Brown Long says that her hope is that girls get the early help they need to never get in the same situation as her.
Oh, you want it back for Gary?
After the break, more from here in Westminster, and we've been asking voters whether all they want for Christmas is another general election.
Good morning, everybody. This is about 1,000 new jobs.
What's that? It was a gas explosion?
They believe there were people inside. Kids.
Who is responsible? She was there because it was yours. Do you know something? Blood on his hands! He has blood on his hands!
You are fighting people with very deep pockets.
We can win, Polly. You're asking me to risk my marriage. I still want to know who I can blame.
Sarah Lancashire in new drama The Accident starts tonight at 9 on Channel 4.
Welcome back to Westminster, where tonight Boris Johnson has thrown down the gauntlet to Parliament again. For a third time, he says he wants a general election, this time on December the 12th, telling MPs if they agree, they'll all get the time they want to discuss his Brexit deal. And in the last few minutes, the government says that Chancellor Sajid Javid's budget, planned for November the 6th, has been cancelled because they're calling for an election. Well, it certainly isn't very festive. In fact, there hasn't been a December election for almost a century. The last one was in 1923, and that one ended in a hung parliament. We've sent our reporter Jane Dodge to Thurrock, where a huge majority voted to leave. Jane.
This constituency actually had one of the highest Brexit votes in the UK. 72% backed leave in 2016. But despite that, Boris Johnson has no guarantees that this seat would secure him a majority in any general election. Yes, the local MP is a Conservative, but Jackie Doyle-Price has a majority of just 345. So this seat is a Labour target in any general election. And according to our, be it rather unscientific, straw poll this afternoon, the delay in actually delivering Brexit has made some people say they won't vote ever again.
It's going to be interesting to see what happens. It's a second referendum in a sort of, in a general election. So yeah, it'll be really good to see.
So bring it on.
Bring it on, yeah. I mean, speak from the youth who were, mugged last time. Bring it on, absolutely.
What about the 12th of December, though? I mean, that's in the run-up to Christmas. Is that a good date?
No, not really, is it? You need something like the end of October would have been a good date instead of, but I don't know. I don't know what to say about it anymore. I don't even watch it anymore because it's got on my nerves that much. So.
You will be voting, though, will you?
What, voting again? I won't bother.
If there's a general election?
No, I won't bother again.
I think it's a bad idea because it doesn't solve the Brexit problem. I think, if anything, he's going to do the opposite of what he says he wants to do, which is to get Brexit done, because he's going to extend it. And who knows, it might just be another hung parliament.
I'm just fed up with all of them. I'd rather not talk about them, actually.
Will you vote, though, in a general election?
Just think about that one.
So what do the Liberal Democrats make of all this? Earlier I caught up with Ed Davey to see where they stand on that December election proposal. So I began by asking what he made of Boris Johnson's call for an election.
If he started negotiating with the EU early, as the EU wanted, he could have brought his deal to the House of Commons, we could have given it proper scrutiny. He wanted to rush it through at the last minute, and MPs said no. So we're not going to allow him. This is Boris Johnson's failure, and he has to admit that.
So collectively you will vote against it?
Well, first of all, we want to see what the EU said about the extension of Article 50. The Democrats have said all along that we want no deal off the table. We don't want any risk that Britain could crash out of the EU with a disaster that would be for people's jobs and medicines and so on. And so that's a key line for us. But people won't be surprised that Liberal Democrats have argued for a people's vote. We think a people's vote is a much better option than a general election, which might solve nothing. Let's remember the Conservative Party still is deeply split on Brexit, and so I don't think an election, as we saw in 2017, can solve this. The best thing is a referendum, and that's what Liberal Democrats will push for.
Isn't this the moment for pact? Isn't this the moment for parties to get together who share the same views?
We've been working with other parties, including Conservative rebels, the SNP, Labour rebels and so on, to try to get the best for the British people, which we believe is to put this back to the people so they have the final say. Unfortunately, not everyone's been with us, but we're trying our best. We are approaching, under Joe Swinson's brilliant leadership, a less tribal way of doing politics, to try to bring people together in the interests of the country, and we'll continue to do that.
And if Europe extends the time for debate to the 31st of January, is that enough time?
It may well be. We'll want to look at the conditions that they place on that, and we also want to look at the opportunities for a people's vote. We actually, Liberal Democrats, tabled an amendment today to the Queen's speech for a people's vote. Unfortunately, that wasn't selected by Mr. Speaker, but we want to explore that because we know that's the best way of sorting this whole nightmare out.
So you'll bring that back?
That's what we want to do, yes.
Do you get the opportunity to bring it back?
Well, we'll see. It's about working with other parties. I know there are actually an awful lot of people now who believe a people's vote would be the best way forward. And so we're going to be talking to people. It's very early days. We've just heard the statement from Jacob Rees-Mogg, and I think we need to tonight at least call out the Prime Minister for what he's done. He has failed in his own terms.
Ed Davey of the Liberal Democrats. Now with me is the MP Anna Soubry, who's leader of the Independent Group for Change. Anna Soubry, you have 5 independents, I think. What are you all going to do?
Oh, we're not going to be voting for this nonsense. It's a terrible carry-on. He's got this dreadful bill, but nevertheless, he got a deal. It's only a week ago that he got that deal. He screwed things up, I have to say, on Saturday, because I think he could have won on Saturday, but he got all of that wrong. He, on Tuesday, won the second reading, but because of this terrible programme motion, which on any understanding is far too short, but he still got it through. And then he had a sort of hissy fit, brought back the Queen's speech, and he's won the Queen's speech and immediately calls for a general election. I mean, this is taking the mickey. It really is. It's not good enough. And to sort of blackmail us and bully us into voting for his awful bill and then have a general election. Shocking character.
You use words like awful, terrible and the rest of it, but only in 2017 you were elected for the party you loved, the Conservatives. What on earth has happened to it?
The Tory party has undoubtedly gone over to the right. There is no debate about this. They are now absolutely...
Has that seen off Pat Farage?
Oh, I think what's happened is it's no longer the Conservative and Unionist party, it's the Conservative and Brexit party. It's as simple as that. They've ditched the DUP, and in doing this terrible deal, which will have huge consequences for Ireland, they will inevitably end up losing Scotland as well, in my opinion.
But there is another reality, and that is in there, in the chamber, that place has totally come to the end of its useful life.
But he's just won the Queen's speech. We've wasted 7 days on the Queen's speech. Because if he wanted his Brexit bill back, why on earth did we spend all that time on the Queen's speech? He won it. He's therefore got a programme to put forward. He's calling a general election. The real truth of this is, John, is that Brexit bill has in it what we call a trapdoor. This time next year, if this bill goes through, we will be looking at a no-deal Brexit because the so-called implementation period expires at the end of 2020. He has to get a deal, and the cat was let out of the bag by John Barron, a Conservative MP, who said it means we can have our no-deal Brexit, and that's why the ERG like this bill.
There's another tragedy for you personally. You're going to lose your seat, aren't you?
Well, I don't know, but truly, it is not about me. And I think one of the things that is good about all of this, and really should be celebrated almost by people who are at home, all pulling their hair out, is the amount of cross-party working that is there to put the country first. And as you know, the only way through the crisis, it's not a general election, it's that people's vote, that confirmatory referendum. So stand by for next week. Who knows what might happen?
Anna Soubry, I'm standing by. Thank you very much for joining us.
There's something ringing somewhere.
It seems almost every day in Westminster at the moment. It's an unprecedented day at the end of another one. Gary Gibbon is with me again. Gary.
The latest we've heard is that the government is saying that if their attempt to get a general election is voted down in the House of Commons on Monday, they're going to go, interesting choice of word for a Conservative administration, on strike. They're not going to bring forward any substantial legislation. We're certainly not going to get a chance to look at their withdrawal bill as far as they're concerned. And they hope that will work with the electorate, building up the pressure on other parties, wearing them down perhaps to succumb to an election, but generally working on the electorate so that at some point the electorate maybe does, when it gets an opportunity, gives them a fillip.
But this is schoolboy stuff.
It's interesting that Jeremy Corbyn has told people privately quite recently that he felt more and more uncomfortable in the position that he was, saying no and no to a general election again and again. Said, I don't think I can really take this beyond December, but here we are. It looks like it is going to be December that this thing actually happens, and that's not going to something he's not going to be able to stop, because the pressure from his own MPs is that he simply cannot go beyond, go in for a general election on the terms on which he's being asked to. One interesting point, we're talking about what on earth is going to happen in this period, this limbo, when the government is saying they're not going to do anything. Well, the opposition tonight, I can tell you, are getting together and talking about what they plan to do with that time. And we've seen they can sometimes seize the agenda, and that, it would appear, is what they plan to do.
Fascinating. Gary, thank you very much. That's all we have time for this evening here in Westminster. We're back at 7 tomorrow night. Until then, from Matt in the studio, all of us here at Westminster, that's Channel 4 News. Have a great evening.
When it's pouring, pour yourself a drink. Weather on 4 proudly sponsored by Mercure Hotels.
Good evening. Well, it's looking very wet in places for Friday into Saturday. Already there's a Met Office yellow weather warning for heavy rain for Wales and western parts of England. There is a risk of some localised flooding, so it's worth bearing in mind if you're travelling to finish off the week. But before then, for this evening and overnight, windy for Scotland, especially towards the north. Gales there. There'll be a mixture of clear spells and the showers wintry over the higher hills and mountains above around 300 metres. Further southwards, across the rest of the UK, showers will fade, but rain will start to push into southwest England by dawn. Mild in the south, but cold and frosty in the north, down to freezing or just below there, and the risk of the odd icy patch as well. Tomorrow then, it's a chilly start to the day for the northern half of the UK. Meanwhile, rain will start to sweep northwards across England and Wales. It will arrive into southern Scotland and Northern Ireland as the afternoon goes on. The wind's picking up too, but for northern Scotland, it stays bright with sunshine and just a couple of showers. Here's the picture in more detail. This is 4 in the afternoon. And at this stage of the day, for the Channel Islands, along with southern and eastern parts of England, not too much rain, but lots of cloud with a strong and gusty wind. But heading northwestwards, as you can see, it's Wales, northern parts of England, the Isle of Man and southern parts of Scotland seeing some heavy rain. The wind's picking up and a risk of localised flooding too. Mild in the south, 16, maybe 17 degrees, but single figures across Scotland and Northern Ireland. Now by Saturday, that rain starts to sink southwards across England and Wales, but it may take much of the day to clear. An ongoing risk of localised flooding. But for Scotland and Northern Ireland, sunny spells and showers. Chilly in the north, but staying pretty mild in the south. Enjoy your evening. Take care. Goodbye.
Shine bright, be radiant. Weather on 4 proudly sponsored by Mercure Hotels.
Tonight on Channel 4, a town left in devastation. What happened and who is to blame? Jack Thorne's brand new drama, The Accident, at 9. At 10, on a quest to find different ways to deal with his cancer diagnosis, Bill Turnbull staying alive. Next though, we're in the doghouse.
Filmed over 5 years in Syria. One family story of what happens when war changes everything.
Summer.
The multi-award winning For Summer, Saturday at 9 on Channel 4.
What's that? It was a gas explosion?
There were kids inside.
Who is responsible?
She was there because it was yours. Do you know something?
I still want to know who I can blame.
Sarah Lancashire in new drama The Accident starts tonight at 9 on Channel 4.
A small Welsh town about to awaken to catastrophe. Who is to blame for the accident? Sarah Lancashire stars in the brand new drama at 9 o'clock. First on Channel 4, Lonely Hearts most definitely should apply. Welcome to the doghouse.
been here for 4 years, and I think everyone's going to miss him.
Hello. Hello. You're coming home with me.
Ensuring the nation's rehomed pets. Petplan sponsors the Doghouse.
What's this? Good boy.
In a quiet corner of the English countryside, there's a place for those looking for love.
Welcome to Agree. Thank you.
Where the staff are dedicated to matching abandoned dogs with hopeful new owners.
Might be going home with a little puppy.